one of the things they would do is fill up a balloon with shaving cream, and you take the balloon and you place it underneath the door so you don't have to go into somebody's room. You can do it from the hallway. And when you smash the balloon, shaving cream just goes everywhere, explodes like all over the bedroom. And I was like, flying looks like it'd be pretty cool. Like, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt a yearning for something more, for something different. And I think my family was like, "What is wrong with you?" But I felt like even before that whistle blew, Wolfie was like knocking me right in the face, like just like, "Okay, this is we're not messing around." Like, it's freezing cold. There's ice, and we still to this day, a bunch of my buddies, we still joke about it because we have nightmares. And the last time that you do it, you actually wear goggles that are blacked out, so you physically can't see anything. Yeah, so it's just like,
As if it weren't scary enough.
Right.
So, Tito, I have a proposition for you. You ready for a would you rather here? Would you
Sure.
rather $25,000? Okay? Just cash. You don't have to do anything for it. Just hand it right to you.
Yep.
Or $1 for every push-up you do in a year.
Ooh.
Mind you, you'd have to do 68 push-ups a day to reach 25,000.
Okay.
Okay? So that's good.
Okay.
You might get sore. So
Yeah.
you trust in yourself?
No, I'll take the 25,000. And here's why.
Oh man.
Here's why. Because I am so ADD that I will just like lose interest in this thing halfway through the year. I might keep doing push-ups and just forget. So it's like, no, let's just go with the 25,000.
You would end up with like $900 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So I would love this. This
Yeah.
would be like the challenge of a lifetime, and I would publicize it, and I would love people to like egg me on. I would do it for a charity, and I think it'd be fun. I'd be like, let's get 50,000. Let's do this, and then I'd die.
If I had someone to compete against, then I'd stay more motivated. But if it was just like me against this ethereal idea of like keep going, no, I would fail.
Yeah, I think raising for charity, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick any friar in our order who could do this and probably get 50,000, maybe 100,000 a year, it is our guest today.
Yes.
A man who needs no introduction among the friars, but happy to welcome into the world. A man who played Division I sports, a man who was in the Navy for 12 years, a man who is just a beast of a human being even today, shaming us in the way that he works out, even featured in a Breaking in the Habit workout video one time.
That's right.
Let's try to find that one. We are, of course, talking about our wonderful brother, Steve Kuehn. Steve, welcome to the show.
"Hey, how you doing? How you doing?"
Really
Would
good to
you
have
take that?
Steve.
Would you take 25,000? Are you working for it?
The 25. Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
68? 68? That's a lot, man. Every
68 a
day.
day. Come on.
Yeah.
You do
You gotta-
20 at lunch. You do. Come on.
You got
Break it
to, so you got to do more than that.
Yeah, you could do 100 a day. I know you could.
Yeah.
I mean, when I lived in Rome,
Well, Steve,
I
it's
did
great to
50
have
a
you
day.
here. Let's 50 a day, okay. And no one was even paying you for it. So imagine
Yeah.
if people are paying you.
It was more of like stir crazy kind of a feeling.
Sure. Well, Steve, it's great to have you. Let's jump right into here. You played lacrosse at none other than the Navy. That's pretty amazing. It's not every day you get to meet, D1 athletes, someone who played that. Tell me, what is it like to play on, in some ways, the highest level? I mean, well beyond what Tito and I ever did.
Oh, well, I mean, it was a lot of hard work. I mean, I honestly, I didn't think I was going to play any sports in college, and freshman year at Navy, I tried out for football. Football was really my passion. I love playing football. And I played on the JV team. If you believe it, Navy has the varsity team, but also a JV team.
Okay.
Wow.
And I was also playing wide receiver. And a lot of people were like, if you want to play wide receiver at Navy, like, you're not going to see a lot of action because
That's right. All you do is block.
Navy's constantly running the ball. So my odds weren't looking very good as far as playing. So I was like, I'm going to try lacrosse. And so lacrosse is in the spring season. I had a couple of my coaches from high school reach out to the Navy coach. Things lined up and ended up walking on the team, I guess, that freshman year and played all 4 years. So, it was a blast. It was hard work, but I missed out on a lot of like the, so they had a fall ball lacrosse season where the freshmen were, yeah, I mean, nothing crazy, but kind of like brought into the team. So I missed out on all of that, thankfully, and I just kind of came in the spring season to play. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of good fun.
I can't even imagine. I mean, we're talking D1 sport. We're talking like the best in the league, and we're talking Navy. I mean, what were these workouts like? I mean, you're worried about doing 100 push-ups a day. I'm sure you could have done that in college.
Yeah. So the toughest workouts we had. So like the lacrosse season is right now. So about February. So January, getting ready for the season, we would have interval training. So it was so early, I think it was either 5 or 6 in the morning. We would before anyone's even awake on the yard. That's what they call the Naval Academy campus. We're like the first
Yeah,
ones
just like
up.
prison.
Yeah, basically. No, it's not that bad, but so we have a couple guys that we live on the same floor. You walk to their room, you don't even say a word, but you give them the light, knock on the door. They're like, "All right, let's go." And you walk out to the field. It's way too early. It's freezing cold. There's ice, and we still to this day, a bunch of my buddies, we still joke about it because we have nightmares of Coach Hogan. Our Coach Hogan, he would. He'd say ready, and then blow the whistle, and we're off running, we're sprinting, at 6 in the morning. I think they discontinued that because it was a pretty intense running program, so they no longer do that. Some guys were getting hurt.
Something's intense if the military schools is like, I think we went too far.
Yeah, I mean, to our credit, we were in great shape, but it was also like at the cost of some shin splints, some minor injuries. So I think they cut that. But
what was the workout like? So I mean, was it just like the dead sprints where you go, short distance, mid distance sprint, long distance, or what was it?
Yeah, so imagine that's pretty much it. Imagine like a track scenario, and we're all grouped. There's like a group here, a group there, like spread out at different stages around the track.
Yep.
And then as soon as he blows his whistle, you're sprinting as hard as you can for either a minute or 45 seconds or 30 seconds. And it kind of tapers back to 10 seconds, but you do 4 quarters. So the first quarter would be maybe like 5, or I don't know, 5, probably more than that, but like several 1-minute sprints, and then several 45-second sprints, and several 30-second sprints, and then you do that for 4 quarters, and then there's always an overtime too. So it's all right, overtime. Here we go, and so it's intense.
So was it worth it? Did you get some glory here? Did you score any goals? You get to deck anyone in games?
Yeah, I think it was because I felt like, and I think the other guys too, felt like we were in awesome shape. Like I felt like we were ready. We could run. Like we could run with. I mean, we didn't necessarily have as much skill as the Johns Hopkins, Syracuse, some of the top teams. But we had heart. Like we played hard, and that training got us in shape. So we were in good shape. The year after I graduated, so I graduated in 2003. In 2004, that Navy team went on to the national championship and lost to Syracuse. So obviously we taught them everything that we knew.
That's right.
I mean, clearly, but
got rid of some dead weight, and there they were.
Trim the fat, and yeah.
What position did you play?
I played midfield, mostly defensive midfield.
Was that like the long stick position?
So there is a long stick midi, but I played more short stick.
Okay.
Short stick midi. Yep.
I always see the long stick midi out there. We got a lacrosse team here, and I was like, that's the position that I want. Just walk softly, carry big stick.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
So one of the big questions with a lot of sports is hazing and things like that. So I don't want to get into hazing specifically, but when you're talking about Naval Academy, I'm sure there were pranks. I'm sure there was some camaraderie, some guys risen on each other. I mean, what was that like? Any good stories of oh my gosh, can't you imagine?
Yeah, so the biggest like prank week, if you will.
There's a prank week.
Well, I mean, it's really Army Navy week, so it's the week leading
Oh
up
yeah.
to the Army Navy football game. So it's like early December, but it turns into, I mean, it's not called prank week, but it turns into like a lot of shenanigans.
Mm.
Um, and one of the things, I never did this, thankfully, but one of the things they would do is fill up a balloon with shaving cream, and you take the balloon and you place it underneath the door, so you don't have to go into somebody's room. You can do it from the hallway. And when you smash the balloon, shaving cream just goes everywhere, explodes like all over the bedroom. So a lot of times the plebes, the freshmen, would do this to the upper class to kind of, because the plebes get a bad rap. They get a lot of they have a hard year, so it's kind of a way to push back a little bit to the upper class. So, and the upper class aren't very happy about that, but.
Oh.
Now I
Worst,
wonder.
worst thing that you did there.
Oh, worst thing? Oh gosh.
Worst thing that happened to you, maybe. I don't want to have you
Yeah,
have a
there you go.
confession
There you
here.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think. I did have to march some tours. So if you get in trouble, you have to march tours. That's like the penalty. You have to wake and again. You have to wake up early in the morning, and you're literally walking in a square for like an hour with a rifle, like not a real rifle, but a ceremonial rifle. So I think I had to do that one time, which is I'm pretty proud of. That's not too bad. But I think the reason it wasn't even good. I think the reason was because our room like wasn't clean enough. Like that was like it's like if you're gonna go down for something like that's not even that great of a reason. But
Yeah.
that's all I got. Yeah,
I got a follow-up question about the whole, shaving cream and the balloon thing.
yeah.
So I'm just imagining.
He's looking for tips.
Let's go.
I don't want this to happen to me. So if let's say I were to do it, how do I make sure that I don't smash the balloon too hard so that it actually pops on me?
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that. I mean, I think YouTube might be a good start. There's probably some good pointers, like because I honestly can't say that I've ever done it, nor have I seen it done. But I've only heard the stories about it, so I don't know. Yeah,
I'd be worried about friendly fire in that situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You don't want that. You don't. Yeah,
It is such a great experience in college, though, and I think it's just the perfect time for it, is playing pranks on each other. And it was something that we did on iHall a lot, something we did with the girls' hall. They played a prank on us. We got back at them. It was this kind of war back and forth. Without any specifics I just remember April Fool's one year. They got us pretty good. We got back at them in kind of a retaliation within an hour or two. And we said, you better acknowledge that what we did was great because that's what we came up with in 2 hours. Can you imagine what we could do in 364 days? And they refused. So they were so angry. And so for the next year, we did psychological warfare. And I found it so fun where I would create a map of what we were going to do in their room. And it was all fake plans. And we planted it. And we had a friend betray us. And he came, he's like, guys, I'm really worried. Casey's going crazy. He's going beyond what he should be doing. And they were just so worried. We didn't have to do anything. It was great.
Oh man, I remember in high school saran wrapping my friend's car for his birthday.
Oh, yes.
The classics. I love them.
that's good.
Do you ever put it on a toilet?
No, I haven't because
I think that's a bit much.
With my luck, I'd forget.
That's right. Talk about friendly fire.
Right.
No, I'm always worried doing it in the friars. It's one thing in college, but when you live with octogenarians, I heard the sisters one time put a statue of Jesus in the shower. And, I would love to do that. You open up the shower like, oh my gosh, Jesus. The guy would slip and fall and like I'd get, manslaughter and I'd be thrown in jail or something. I just can't do that.
I was telling you, we did the one to one of our brothers, Josh Critchley, for his birthday. We taped in so it was his birthday. So at nighttime, John and myself put just clear tape outside of his door because the door opens inwards, so that when he opened the door, he's like, we were hoping he would like walk into it and get stuck and like, but obviously he just ripped it and was like, what is going on here? Like, what is this? Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so Steve, you've gone through Annapolis, right? You've done all the cool stuff, all the fun stuff, and now you eventually ended up flying helicopters, right? So how does that work? How do you go from like student life to then, okay, now I'm no longer just like, naval college student. I'm in the Navy and I'm flying helicopters.
Yeah, I mean, so there's one in your junior year at the Naval Academy. There's a period that you select. Basically, you select if you want to go ships, or if you want to go on submarines, or if you want to go in the Marine Corps, or if you want to fly. And I was like, flying looks like it'd be pretty cool. Like, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit more to it, but that's kind of what it came down to. And the only downside is that you owe more time. So if you go surface or submarines, you owe about 5 years. But if you fly, there's training, a little bit more training involved. So you end up owning it comes out to about 8 years or so. So with that, I was like, you know what? I still think it's worth it, and just went for it. And the first thing they do, you go to train in Pensacola. So I went first move was down to Pensacola, Florida. And actually, even before that, just to make sure it's a wise investment for the Navy, they put you through, I think, about 30 flight hours in a Cessna. So this is this is like right around Annapolis, so right around the Naval Academy. So they can be like, okay, this person, is actually a good fit. We're going to send them to Pensacola for training. So that was a lot of fun.
You don't want some guy getting into training and like getting the equivalent of seasick. You get in the plane, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm terrified of heights.
Exactly. Yep. So it was cool. Like it was crazy. Like I never, I wasn't one of those kids that had like model airplanes as a kid. Like I never, I was never like dead set on flying. But it just presented itself. And I was like, I think that'd be pretty fun. And then,
I mean, I always dreamed of that as a kid. I don't think I ever really wanted to be a pilot, but to fly is awesome. Now, granted, flying for the Navy is slightly different than just like flying around and doing whatever I wanted. But you've got the joystick. I remember playing the video games, and it's got to be terrifying, right? I mean, what was that like the first time that you were in control of the plane?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a little nerve-wracking, and I remember just the controls are very sensitive, so like you push whatever whether it's the power or just a little bit, and you can feel it, and you're like, whoa, that's like, I don't want to crash this thing. Like that's a little bit. I didn't expect it to. I just thought it would like continue to fly straight and level. So honestly, it was definitely a little bit scary at first. But the way the training is set up, like it's very gradual. They build you up, your confidence, so that you're comfortable doing it. You're in a simulator for a lot of the beginning phases, so that you're not actually up in the air. You're in like a square box, just flying around. So there's a lot of practice that leads up to your first real flights, I guess, if you will. So you're pretty well prepared at that point. But there are also days like on the ship, flying the helicopter, when it's pitch black outside, the boat's rocking back and forth. You're tired, and you're just looking at this hunk of metal, this big helicopter, and you're like, we're gonna take this thing up in the air. Like this doesn't even seem like a smart idea right now. Like, what are we doing?
No.
We're out in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of the ocean, and we're just gonna go up and fly, and like, but somehow we do it. It works. Thanks be to God. Yeah.
I learned something recently about like helicopters and like the challenges that they face. For example, if they're pulling someone out of the water, or if they're lowering someone into the water, or maybe just lowering something onto a ship, is as you have to be really, really steady, because as that thing lowers, whatever it might be, it can pick up momentum, swinging back and forth. So how do you guys do you guys train for that, and how do you compensate for it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have so there are two pilots in the front, and then we have an air crewman who sits in the back, and the air crewman really helps to say, because you can't, if you're flying, you can't see what's underneath you, right. But the person in the back can look down, and they really guide you. They can say, hey, it's swinging left or right. If you're carrying something, they can give you a heads up, like if it's to steady out, or kind of to give you instruction to help to get things under control. But Yeah, that's a good point. You know, being up front, you can't see what's underneath you.
Yeah, so Top Gun, obviously a huge movie for the Air Force. A lot of military movies out there. Have you watched some and like, that's not the way things go, or others like that's my experience? What's it like watching movies?
Steve, correct him.
Navy, Top Gun Navy. Oh,
No,
Navy.
it is Navy. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, but
Okay.
they fly like fighter
Yeah.
jets, and you're flying helicopters.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the jet community as well. I can't say like, oh, that's correct, that's incorrect. But I do have buddies who fly jets, and I asked them, especially the newer one that came out, like, you know, and he said, yeah, it's pretty accurate. Like, yeah, he's like one of our guys watched that movie like 8 times as soon as it came out. So like, I mean, that says something about the accuracy, I guess.
Yeah. But do you watch something like Apocalypse Now that has helicopters, or other movies that, you know, Black Hawk Down or something? You're like, that's not my experience.
No, I don't know. I guess I haven't really. I don't know. Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, I think the helicopter scenes are pretty. I don't know. Usually chasing a car. You know, it's usually like something. You know, something like that. I don't know. I guess I haven't gotten into the military helicopter movies as much, but they seem accurate as far as like I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that impresses me is like I grew up in the Air Force, and the planes. Like my dad worked on F-16s, right? That's like so many generations ago now. We're on like F-22s, F-30, you know, whatever. Is how much the technology has changed, right? So you know, I was listening to a fighter pilot speak recently. He said, you know, those '90s planes are just better dogfighters. Like they were built for that. Whereas like the F-35 now is going to lose in a dogfight. The problem is the technology has advanced so much that if like F-35s and F-16s were coming at each other, the F-16s wouldn't even make it to the fight. So they would just like be noticed by the other planes so much more quickly now. So has the technology like changed just as much for helicopters? Like have you kept up and like have you seen like some of the ways and things have evolved?
Yeah, I mean, so just as I was kind of leaving the Navy, there's a new, kind of a new type of helicopter, an updated version, if you will, so that basically the cockpit is like glass. So there's like, so the instruments, you know, are basically on a glass panel. So that was the latest. You know, those are pretty. That was a big change, a big update. And that, of course, I just missed that. As soon as I left, those came in, so I wasn't able to fly them. But I'm probably not as significant as some of the fighter jet updates, but you know, still enough to make a difference. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
What you know, what life lessons you got from the Navy? I know, you know, military people always like to go talk to high schools, and they always learn important things along the way. You know, something about being a helicopter pilot, about going to drill camp, about any of it, the camaraderie. What sticks out to? What do you take from the military?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just like you meant the camaraderie. So it's that sense of you know, we don't in the probably, you know, in any line of work you don't necessarily know or maybe get along with everybody, but especially in the Navy or you know probably any military branch, you kind of at the end of the day you have to make it work somehow. You have to make things like you have to put aside the differences and just you know, kind of make the best you can with the situation. So I think there is that spirit of, I mean, I guess I call it camaraderie, but the spirit of just like teamwork and you know, it doesn't matter what someone's background is, what their education is, where they're from. You know, at the end of the day, it's you know whoever is with you, those are the people that you need to work with to get along with in order to be successful. So. I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons I learned is just that spirit of teamwork, that spirit of putting differences aside in order to work towards a common goal.
You know, that makes me think we used to have a guy here at the college that I work at who was in charge of public safety, right? Our sort of policing on campus, and he came from a military background, and his whole model was that in most police forces, you arrest someone for committing a crime, you book them, and then they become sort of the issue of the legal department, right? But in the military, it's different. If someone does something wrong in the military, you've got to correct the behavior, but you've also got to live with them and keep working with them because, it takes a lot for someone to get dishonorably discharged, right? So would you say that kind of shaped your perspective on, like, how do I address issues with people? How do I address issues where we correct a behavior, but we also continue to live together?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Yeah, at the end of the day, when you're out deployed on the ship, like those are the people that you're interacting with every day. So yeah, you have to correct issues. You have to, be able to move forward in a way that's going to help. That's going to be helpful for the team, for everybody. But yeah, at the same time, if things, if somebody's not doing something correctly or just wrong, that does have to be corrected. Hopefully gently, hopefully in a encouraging manner. But at the end of the day, we got to work together and kind of, and figure it out. Yeah.
Thing I'm most interested, especially with the Navy, is where have you been? Have you been all around the world? I mean, that's what they say on the commercials. Join the Navy, see the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much. So I was stationed majority of the time out in San Diego. So
Exotic.
Any deployment I did was we left from San Diego and headed west. So that meant usually a stop in Hawaii, which was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But then, so then we would just continue west. So we did, been through all parts of Asia, Japan, Thailand, Hong Kong, Singapore. But then you continue around to the Arabian Gulf. So we went up into Dubai, to Bahrain. In one of our deployments, we went up in the Red Sea. We got all the way up to Cyprus, up in the Mediterranean, and then came back down. So yeah, you really do get to see a good part of the world. It's kind of an adventure in that sense.
And did you go into the cities? You have free time to go out? I mean, obviously you're not just on vacation, but how much of the culture did you get to experience?
Yeah, so that's a good question.
Anything stick out to you?
Yeah, so depending on where so usually you'll find out maybe a couple weeks before, sometimes sooner than that, but where you're going to pull into port. And then at the MWR, it's like they do a lot of the morale planning stuff for the port. So they'll have activities that sailors can do in port so that they're not just out running. Because you're on this ship for X number of days, so it's like
the
reality is, I mean, I hate to admit it, but the reality is like you have a lot of built up tension, and so you get off the ship and things can get a little wild. Like the movies don't lie.
Hey, I went to novitiate. I know what it's like once you get free from your vows and you're out in the city.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but they do a good job of trying to create activities that are pretty safe. So anyway, so you pull into different ports and you get to. It's usually for about 2 or 3 days, maybe give or take a couple days. It could be, and you get to experience the culture. You usually have duty one of those days, so you're usually stuck. I don't want to stay stuck, but kind of stuck on the ship for a day. And then, but it's enough that you're able to get out there, kind of meet the people, experience the culture, try the food. I think that's a pretty cool. It's one thing I definitely miss is you get to, you're literally just inserted into these different countries, communities, and they're usually pretty welcoming. And I think so. It's kind of a cool experience.
What's one country
Any
that
favorite
you went to?
Places?
Yeah. I was just gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, they're all. I mean, the answer really is they're all. Every one of them has been awesome. Like, there's no bad experience.
Oh, please, come on.
I mean,
Pick a place.
I mean, Dubai definitely stands out. Dubai, just because they're like, they always have like the tallest building, or the one thing I remember I guess 2 times we pulled into to Dubai on different deployments, and each time we went to, it was like the middle of summer. It's the Middle East. It's brutally hot, you're like, okay, let's go check out their mall because the mall's air conditioned. It's pretty comfortable, and everybody. I mean, you'll see 90% of the ship walking around the mall. You're like, oh, I know that person. But at one end of the mall, okay, mind you, again, it's like the middle of summer. It's super hot. One end of the mall, you go through. It's set up, and you get the right gear. You get everything that you need. You go through these revolving doors, and you enter into winter. And it's just this massive ski snowboard facility that's just like open year round in the middle of Dubai. So every time we pulled in there, we made a point to go, to go ski in Dubai because it's like when else are you going to be able to do that?
Okay,
Of course, when in Rome.
I was thinking about this, and I'm going to ask you now. Could you afford anything in that mall?
Yeah, no. I mean, maybe a movie ticket. You could go get a movie ticket, which would still be expensive, but yeah. No, everything.
Good just to be around people, though.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
I had a friend who he was in the Navy for 4 years. Then he went and became a chaplain. He went and became a priest, and now was a naval chaplain. His favorite place that he went to, and I think partly it was because of the name, was Djibouti. Did you ever make it to Djibouti?
I did not. No. I know many people that went there, but yeah.
He got his mom a T-shirt apparently that says, "I made it to Djibouti, baby."
There you go. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We never made it there, but.
So you were telling us something the other day that I want to ask you more about, but you're saying some of the training for this. That's the fun stuff. You get to go to Djibouti. But what about practicing sinking? You shared this story. Tell us again. You're in a simulator and they practice drowning you? I mean, is this what this is?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it
sounds like waterboarding.
Yeah. So I can't do it justice. Like you have to actually experience this, but so it's an indoor facility. There's kind of like this module, if you will, that hangs. It basically hangs, I guess, from the ceiling, and it's supposed to be like a cockpit, like you're in the helicopter, and so you can get a few people in there. You strap in just like you were in the helicopter, and then this is set up over a large swimming pool. So what it does is it's supposed to simulate a crash landing over water, and so it drops you down onto the water, and then it literally flips you upside, or fills up with water first, and then it flips you upside down. And the point of it is to stay calm, but then once all motion stops is when you calmly release your seat harness and then exit out the window and swim up to the surface. And they have a number of scuba divers around to make sure that you're not nothing too crazy is going on. So you do this a couple of times. And the last time that you do it, you actually wear goggles that are blacked out, so you physically can't see anything. Yeah, so it's just like
as if it weren't scary enough,
right?
And I remember because this one time it was funny that like you have somebody next to you, and the best seat in the house is the one next to the window. So that like there's one seat that's next to the window, the other one it doesn't have a window, so they have to come across this other seat to get to the window. And I remember they said, So you wait for everything to stop moving, and the person next to the window goes first, and then the other person follows behind them. I remember I had the seat next to the window, calmly releasing my seat harness, and before I can even reach for the window, that person's like gone right in front of me. They got out before I could even get out, so it was like
out of the way, snooze you lose.
Yep, there they go.
So Tito, you're not a huge fan of heights, so the whole being in the cockpit in the air. Not good. What about the cockpit in the water? Which would you prefer?
Well, here's the thing. So you're right. I'm not a fan of heights. Flying doesn't bother me, though. And I wonder if it's because I've done it since I was a kid. But I think I would actually be more freaked out by cockpit in the water than cockpit in the air. Because, and I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I trained to be a firefighter at one point, so I've exposed myself to like different scenarios like this because that's part of that training too. It's like, okay, we're gonna burn a building and you're gonna run through it, with all the gear on. It's simulated, it's controlled, but it's still a burning building. So I feel like I could do it, but I would take a little bit of training in this too. Like I would start to get nervous. I know my heart rate would start to rise for sure.
Yeah, let me jump out of the plane. I don't want to be in the water. I don't want to be submerged. I can't hold my breath that long. I can swim all right, but I assume you've got your gear on as well, right? Or some sort of like suits, and you're not packed up, but I can't imagine swimming in boots and all that stuff.
What's step one?
What's that?
What's step one, Steve? When you're in the water in your uniform,
I don't even know.
You take off your pants.
Take
right?
off your boots.
There you go. Yeah.
Take off your boots. Tie them together. Put them around your neck.
There you go. It's a flotation device.
It's not, but you're gonna want them. You're gonna want them when you're back on land.
Sure enough. Well, I thought in the pants, aren't they supposed to be like inflatable or something?
There is a trick, that you can do. I don't know if they teach that. Do they teach you guys that? You tie the ends,
tie the legs, and then, yep.
Yeah.
You can catch air in the seat of the pants. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you went to the Naval Academy. You were part of sports teams. You joined the Navy. You're a part of a Brotherhood. And then you leave and you say, I want more Brotherhood? You weren't tired enough of being a group of men. You decided to be a friar?
I know. Well, I think I grew up with 3 older sisters. So, this was like, I need some brothers in my life. Like I always complained to my mom, like, what the heck? So.
That's interesting. None of us on this call have brothers.
Is that true? Right?
Yeah. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Maybe we're all looking for brothers.
Hey.
Oh man! And then we got.
So what led you to the Friars? Did you grow up thinking you might be a priest? Were you always religious? What led you here?
So I never honestly can say I never thought. I had nothing against it, but I never thought religious life or priesthood or any. That just never was on my radar. I really thought married life was going to be the next step while I was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the faith, we grew up, our parents, pretty devout. I mean, going to church on Sundays but continued that my whole life, but it wasn't really on my radar until the last couple years in the Navy. And I literally just felt something inside, like I just felt a yearning for something more, for something different. And I think my family was like, what is wrong with you? And full disclosure, like I was actually going through some pretty tough times during that period too, just own struggles, depression, etc. But it really shed some light on this deeper search in my life, I think. And it wasn't, I felt like God wasn't calling me towards married life, towards a wife and kids, but towards a vocation. And that's really, I was out in San Diego at the time. I reached out to the Friars out there and never looked back.
I mean, that's really interesting to hear that your family was kind of like, what's going on? Just because I was lucky, blessed, I got to be at your ordination, and I remember seeing your parents there and I chatted with them and the pride that was on their face, like the joy, the pride, all of it was unmistakable. So yeah, it's easy to forget. It's a journey for us, but it's also a journey for our families and our parents.
That's true. I think they were just shocked. Like, where is this coming from? Like, it's just, I thought we were going to have some grandkids and nieces and nephews. And, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Did they know anything about the Friars, or was it just Romeo and Juliet and Friar Tuck? I mean, sometimes our public images are not the best.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think we had any interaction with Friars growing up. So my mom grew up in Western Maryland, so there were some Capuchins out there, but we grew up in a Redemptorist parish, so that they didn't. My family, I don't think, knew much about the Friars at that point, but they, you're right, and cut fast forward to present day, and every one of my sisters, their husband, they were all there. They've been there. So 8 years later, sooner than that really, but they've they see it and they're supportive. they're encouraging, and I don't know if they totally get it. I don't totally get it all the time, but they are.
I'd be worried
supportive.
if you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's part of this life that you join this life because you're crazy. You just have to be the right type of crazy. But everyone else is crazy in this life too. So fraternal life can be a bit of a mess.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
why the friars? Why not the Jesuits? Why not the Redemptorists?
Yeah. So I literally, the first email was to the Redemptorist vocation office, and they didn't respond. I was like, okay.
Oh, oh man.
We came to
All
find
right,
out.
well,
I know. We came to find out several months later that the priest that I'd reached out to, he was like, "Oh, that was like an old email address." So it was user error, really. But yeah, I
divine
don't know.
providence. We're
Yeah.
happy to have you.
That's
Good
right.
call. There we go. But yeah, I browsed around a little bit. I looked at I was in San Diego, so I met with the diocesan guys out there. Didn't quite feel right. I felt like this contemplative piece. So my parents' family probably thought I was crazy, but I met with like the Benedictines out there, and that just seemed like too much. And then I literally found the friars. I mentioned this the other day. A big part of it was your blogs, everything that you had out there on your formation experience, and that literally just gave me life. I loved reading about your postulancy experience and formation experience, and that helped me to be like, okay, I could see myself, a year from now doing the same things. And I met some of the friars there in Santa Barbara. It helps that they have.
Then you joined and you realized this is a load of crap. What was he talking about? What have I gotten myself into?
I want to meet this guy and tell him.
So
No.
what was the difference? Obviously the blog was for that purpose. I wanted people to have an experience like I did, where you could kind of read about it and experience it from afar. How did it match your actual entering in? Because everyone can always have those imaginations, but then Tito has this as well. You join the friars and you're like, all right, some of this is what I expected, and some of this is you can't prepare anyone for.
Nope.
Yeah, no, it's totally accurate. I mean, I think I took it with a grain of salt, so I didn't hold you to every word in detail that
Thank
like, yeah. Obviously our experiences are going to be different. But I think it just helped for me just to paint like a rough picture. And, I think thankfully for whatever reason, I came with a pretty open mind. So I wasn't, I don't feel like I had a lot of disappointments or like, I wish it could have been like this or that. So, I think my expectations were open. I wasn't, I obviously had some, but I think they were, I wasn't like set, like it has to be like this. It has to be just like Casey's experience or, that helped me to kind of paint the picture, but I think I was open to whatever experience, whatever happened.
So I have a question because you served in the military. I grew up in the military. One of the things that I've noticed is that there's a lot in common between the military life and the Franciscan life in terms of like you get moved around, you get stationed different places. It's a big community, but at the same time feels very small. You see a lot of the same people in different places. What's something that you think the friars could learn from the Navy or the military in general, and what's something you think the military or the Navy could learn from the friars? Because although there's a lot of things in common, there's some very important different things.
Yeah, this is a tough question, and I think my answer, I think the thing that the friars could learn from the military is, it's kind of a catch-22, but I think that the structure, the military is very organized, it's very regimented. And as friars, like we obviously have we're organized in the sense that we have chapters, we come together to pray, but things tend to be a little bit more loose. So I think that's what the friars could learn from the military. But on the flip side, I think the military can learn that looseness from the friars, which is perhaps an even bigger. Like I think that's like our gift is that we are, we're not totally constrained, or there's some freedom to move. Like we're not totally, I don't know. There's a little bit more freedom to move. We're not so regimented that it's like you have to do this or do that, or there's some of that, of course, but it's a little bit more free moving, if you will, which I think is a good gift. I think it has to be that way to kind of, I don't know, because people are different. The spirit moves in different ways. So I think they each have a pro that they can offer each other, but I think the friars have something better to offer the military. I don't know. Yeah.
Sure. I'm not sure if I want, soldiers going out to battle, like, oh, the spirit moved me to do this. So there's something to that order that's really good.
Yeah.
And I do think, the friars, as you say, could learn a little bit more in like organization. We are chaos incarnate. But yeah, there's something maybe to that mercy, that forgiveness, that flexibility that the military is not known for, and maybe rightly so, but I assume could make the experience a little bit better.
Right. That's it. Yeah.
Do you think
the better question, not to say that Tito's question wasn't good, but clearly the better question, which was more difficult, basic training or initial formation with the friars?
Yeah, I mentioned this the other day. Like hands down, initial formation with the friars. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think for different reasons. I mean, as we met, I think the physical aspect of joining the military
is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, but the physical aspect of the military is obviously challenging. But with initial formation with the friars was more challenging in the sense of I felt challenged to be patient with the process, and I think it's tough to come into this life as a second career, if you will. At least I found that challenging because I felt like I'd kind of established myself, identity in the Navy, doing a lot of things. And then coming to the friars, you kind of have to start over I think as males, maybe we gravitate a lot towards our identity and what we do. So I know for me it was challenging, and maybe not just for everybody, males and females, but I know for me it was challenging to be patient with the process. I felt like I want to be there. I want to profess solemn vows. I just wanted to get to the finish line, which probably isn't the best approach, but that's just how I felt. So that made it more challenging, I think, than the basic training part for the military. It was just being patient through the process.
I think we all reach a point, in formation where we're just like, I want to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
I think that's just part of it.
With life.
It is
anything in life.
Yeah, it is. There is a dying to self. There are times where you get frustrated. I mean, I remember when I realized that my formator didn't know when tax day was because he never had to file taxes, and I'm like, you and I have had very different lives. So yeah, it's just part of it.
Yeah, I remember having a meeting one time, and you all might know exactly who I'm talking about, but I was supposed to meet with this person as my mentor throughout formation, and he said, "So how are you feeling?" And I said, "Well, I'm angry and I'm frustrated and I don't feel heard." And I shared all these words, and he says, "Okay, but what feeling words come to mind?" It's like, what are you talking about? I just told you all of them, and you're making them worse.
You're making it worse. Yeah.
We can be a little touchy-feely, lovey-dovey, and he just wanted the good feelings. I was like, nope, these are still feelings.
There was a point where I had to go through. I had to meet with a counselor every 2 weeks, and I told him early on, I was like, I hate the question, "How are you feeling?" and he's like, "Why?" And I was like, because I feel like I'm pretty good at explaining how I'm feeling, and so when someone asks me that, I'm like, have you not been paying attention?
I'm telling you.
So yeah, I feel that, Casey.
So anyway, Steve, how are you feeling with your new job?
So great.
Yeah.
So awesome. So good.
Yeah, because you made it through. You made it to the finish line, not a day too soon. You're now ordained. You're solemnly professed. You're working as a campus minister. Is it everything you imagined 10 years ago?
Oh, it's rainbows and sugar pies, and yeah, there's no bad day, and yeah. No, I mean it is good. I mean, it's there are times that I'm like, man, I wish I could go back to formation though. Like, yeah, it's like
Funny
the
that
grass,
happens.
the grass is always greener, but
Yep.
Yeah.
but no, it's good. I mean, I definitely look back. Somebody recently asked me about the process. They're like, man, it just seems like it's a long time, to go from to start the postulancy, to be solemnly professed, to be ordained. Could be almost 8 years. It just seems like that could be done a lot quicker. And I was like, I would have agreed with you a few years ago, but now, like, looking back at that process, like, maybe not the book knowledge, maybe not, not a ton of stuff there, but like, I think there is like a maturing process that goes on over that course of time. That's just like, that your vocation grows, and you're willing to wait. You're not like, granted there's this, I want it right now. I'm ready. But you work with it. You're patient with it. And then you have that time where you're able to grow, and maybe understand your vocation a little bit better. So, I don't know. Somebody recently asked me that question, and I think that it all works for the best. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you we're blessed to have you.
Well,
Wonderful to have you as part of the fraternity. Hope to live with you someday. I mean, we're about as far away we can be at this point on the East Coast. You're all the way up in upstate New York. You're close to Tito, but still like 8 hours west, I guess.
yeah.
Five
All the
hours.
way down in Georgia here. But hey, it's a long life, and you're just jumping from fraternity to fraternity. I'm sure we'll find each other somehow.
Let's go.
Definitely. We'll definitely end up finding each other.
Absolutely.
Well, Tito,
No,
any
yeah.
final questions for our illustrious guest here?
I don't know. I kind of want to go back to real quickly to like our first little part there where we were talking about pranks. Not so much the pranks part of it, but
Yeah.
you went to the Naval Academy, and I'd heard, and we you verified this the other day, but tell me a little bit about boxing in the Navy. So, what is that, like a 4-year course? Is it a 1-year course? Do you only have to do it for the first semester? Like, tell me a little about it.
Yes, that's a good question. So everybody, I imagine it's still the case, but you take a boxing class. Honestly, can't even remember which year, but I believe it's a semester long, so one semester. And I was hurt, so it must have been either maybe my sophomore, junior year, because those are years I was hurt. But so I wasn't able to physically, take the class. So in order to pass the class, I had to spar, basically box with somebody. So I didn't have a lot of boxing experience. So I asked a buddy on my lacrosse team, Brian Wolf, a great guy. And he's like, oh, yeah. He accepted it too quickly. I should have been a little bit concerned. He's like, oh, yeah, Steve.
Oh, yeah, I'll
like,
punch you.
Yeah, just pick the day, man. I'll box with you, no problem. I'm like, we'll get it done. It'll be no problem. And I'm just like, why is he so eager to box? Like, and then I start talking to some of our other buddies, and they're like, bro, Wolfie's a pretty good boxer, man. Like, you better be careful.
I love that his name's Wolfie.
Yeah,
Yeah, why didn't you pick the small guy?
I know. I'm an idiot. So sure enough, we're like, it comes the day we're boxing. It's like I don't know, like a Tuesday afternoon, just a normal school day, and we're there boxing with probably Richie Mead. He was the head coach at Navy, Coach DeFurman, but he also taught boxing. And we're like, all right, here we go. And but I felt like even before that whistle blew, Wolfie was like knocking me right in the face, like just like, okay, this is we're not messing around. Like
I
we're
just have this
boxing.
image of like the playground, and it's like fight, everyone, and they're like crowded around. And
Yeah, and he didn't go light. I was
man.
I was a minor character that day for sure.
He was definitely the main character.
Yeah, but it's all good. It was a good memory, and he still lets me know to this day that he outboxed me. So yeah, so that's good. but I passed.
Yeah, well, I apologize. I feel like we've buried the lead there. That was really the story. And if you can go back, you can amend your question. What can the Friars learn from the military? We should bring boxing. Can you imagine?
How to box.
With formators and students, there'd be some pent up aggression. Let's do it.
There we go.
No better way to scandalize the church than to have the men of peace, the Franciscans, boxing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could try it.
Yeah.
Well,
brother, thank you so much. I have no interest in boxing you, so you would kick my butt.
You would win,
even if you won't do the push-ups.
You would win. I'm sure.
I don't think I could throw a punch. Couldn't hurt that beautiful face of yours. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope that your priesthood's going well. You're so new. You got the baby priest aura around you.
Hey.
Hope you're doing wonderful work. I know you will.
Pray for me. Pray for us. Pray
Definitely
for all
will.
of us.
So Tito, what
Yes.
a good dude.
Yeah, no, he's awesome.
What a good dude.
He's awesome. He's a joy to live with. I love living with him in Chicago, and I hope to live with him in the future again.
Yeah, man. But I'm still, I got to say, I'm disappointed he's not taking the push-ups. I've been single track mind on this the whole time.
Look.
Come on. I now want to do this as part of a chapter. We're going to have a push-up competition.
You can. Go right ahead. I'm on his side. I'll take the 25,000.
And this is why we're falling behind the Dominicans. This is it right here.
Really? I don't think the Dominicans are doing 65 push-ups a day.
If you told them that Thomas Aquinas did it, they probably would.
That's fair, but I don't think Thomas Aquinas did.
No. The ox couldn't do a push-up. His belly was too big.
I don't know about all those legends.
Oh, it's very true. And they were all started by Franciscans.
That's probably true. We definitely helped spread them.
Yeah. Well, Tito, 2 down.
Yep.
I think it's going great. I can't wait for our next guest. Hopefully he's out of quarantine by this point.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be wild. This man's got some stories. So
He does
folks at
have
home,
some stories.
you're going to want to hear this. A wise man who has seen a lot, has taught a lot, and knows all the dirt of history.
Yeah.
You're going to want to come back next week. Peace, everybody.